Hello, macroeconomics students. Professor George here. I am doing a short video, I think it's 11 slides, to help you with the end of chapter 11. A lot of you were out that day, and I just wanted to make sure that you understood all the material, because the material in chapter 11 study guide will be on the test. So I just wanted to make sure you understood it. So there's good news and there's bad news. If you remember, John Maynard Keynes, his bad news was that the economy can get into a recession and it might not come out. Remember, the classical economist said, in the long run, it will all work its way out. And Keynes said, in the long run, we're all dead. So he said to avoid being dead, sometimes the government has to spend money. They have to spend money even if they don't have it. Now, our government spends money all the time when they don't have it. But back in Keynes's day, this was a radical idea. So the spending multiplier is the good news. It's bad news, we can't get out of it. The good news is whatever size the gap is between current GDP and potential GDP, the government does not need to spend that whole amount. They can spend part of it because of the spending multiplier. So that's the good news. I gave you 2 slides. It's really good news because the government does not have to fill it. Now it says here on the slide, here let me change my pointer thing. I will go to a pen. It says here on the slide, it can be government spending, it could be net exports and investment, but we're talking about fiscal policy, and fiscal policy is government spending. Now, if you remember the formula for the spending multiplier, I really recommend that you do it this second way, just because of how you use your calculator. So the spending multiplier is 1 divided by 1 minus the MPC. Remember, the MPC plus the MPS, the marginal propensity to consume plus the marginal propensity to save, is always going to give you 1. So I would use 1 over the marginal propensity to save. This is from your study guide, it's number 7. I don't want to give you all the answers, but I want to make sure that you can calculate these things. So have your calculator handy. Maybe you could pause it right now, see if you can figure these out, and then come right back. When the MPC is 0.9, what is the MPS? It's 0.1. So you can say 1 divided by 1 minus 0.9, that's 1 divided by 0.1. Put that in your calculator and you will get 10. For 0.8, you put 1 divided by, oh, I have a typo right there. That should be divided by. 1 divided by 1 minus 0.8 equals 1 divided by 0.2. You put that in your calculator and you will have 5. I would recommend that you, on a piece of paper, not on the PowerPoints, write down all the multipliers associated with these MPCs. So when you get it on the test, you won't have to do that calculation. All right, so this is a problem I worked out for us. And if I'm showing you a problem, it's probably because you're going to have the same problem on the quiz. So get out your paper and pencil and calculator and do it along with me. When the economy is in a recession and the government passes a $400 billion stimulus package, that's fiscal policy, the government spends $400 billion. And in this economy, the MPC equals 0.8. What we want to know is how much will GDP go up? First, you have to calculate the multiplier. We did that on the last slide. The multiplier in this example is going to be 5. So this right here is the formula that you're going to need to work the problems. I think it's the last problem on your study guide is also a problem just like this. And I wrote that formula there too. So a change in government spending, right here we have it, 400 million. I plug that into the equation, times the multiplier, which we just calculated, and we see, wow, isn't that good news? That's the good news. They spent 400 billion and they got a boost of GDP of 2,000 billion. So that's awesome. That's the good news. Now, with expansionary fiscal policy, G&T, we have increase in government spending, or we can decrease taxes. So the tax multiplier is 1 less than 1 minus the spending multiplier. The tax cut will have a smaller effect than government spending. I went over that in class about the first round of spending will be smaller. But just trust me that the tax multiplier is smaller than the spending multiplier. Now we can do another problem. Again, this is a really small point. I couldn't get it any bigger to fit on one slide. So please take the time to pause this maybe and try to work through the problem. Again, we have an MPC of 0.8 and the economy is in a recession. The administration decides they're going to have expansionary fiscal policy, and this time they're going to cut taxes to do it. We still need to raise GDP by 1,000. So here's the information we're given in the problem. The MPC equals 0.8. The spending multiplier is 5. We did that last problem. The tax multiplier is 1 minus the spending multiplier. That's 1 minus 5, that's minus 4. It's going to be negative because it's either increasing government spending or decreasing taxes. So we're going to use the same formula, but we're going to just do a little bit of algebra. So the change in taxes times the tax multiplier will equal the total change in GDP. So there's our formula. In algebra, we call this chug and plug and chug. We're going to plug in the information we need. So the change in taxes, this is our unknown. This is what we're solving for. Well, sorry about that, it was kind of messy. So the change in taxes times the spending multiplier, and then we need GDP to go up by 1,000. So we're going to divide both sides. Let me see if I have an eraser. Eraser. I'm going to erase this right here. It looks really messy. Okay, I'll go back to my pointer. So we're going to divide both sides by -4. And what are we going to get? That the change in taxes is equal to -250. So to increase GDP by 1,000, the government needs to cut taxes by 250. That's more than what they need to spend money, the last slide, because the tax multiplier is smaller. We're almost done. We're almost done. Let's see what we got next. The balanced budget multiplier, this is just telling us that if the government wanted to increase spending and pay for it with an increase in taxes, that the outcome would be there would be no multiplier. So here's a problem where they say the MPC is 0.75, they're in a recession, government, they don't want to add to the deficit, so they're going to increase government spending by 500 billion, and they will also increase taxes by that amount. So the spending by the government is paid for by the increase in taxes. So what will be the final outcome in aggregate demand or GDP? Well, increase 500 and you get an increase in GDP of 500. There is no multiplier effect with the balanced budget multiplier. Last concept, we talked about a little bit in class. I just want to make sure you get it. We know that fiscal policy is conducted by a Senate. They have to go through the Congress. They have to have a bill. They have to get through all the approvals. And that is very hard to do in our current political climate. So we're lucky that in the United States, we do have some automatic stabilizers built into the system. They're not huge. They're not going to solve the problem. But the good thing about them is they happen automatically and there's no government action required. Okay, the first one, my head is in the way a little bit here. I don't know how to move that, but this says a progressive tax system. A progressive tax system. A progressive tax system, most countries have a progressive tax system. Everybody has different places where they put the cutoffs, but a progressive tax system is a tax system where as you earn more money, the rate that you pay on the additional income is taxed at a higher rate. Everybody gets confused by this. They say that if you have a high tax rate, let's say a tax rate of 10%, say, if you make more than $300,000, it's not that you pay 10% of $300. It's the amount over that bracket. Anyway, progressive tax system is a tax system where as you make more money, your tax rate increases. So let me draw for you right here. This is the business cycle, okay? Remember, we're talking about a little bit of brake and a little bit of gas just when they're needed. As you're going up the business cycle right here, you get to the top. Usually people's incomes are increasing. This is where we're going to need a tap on the brakes. So as people's income is increasing, their tax rate will also increase. And that little bit of increase in tax rate will act just as a tiny brake on the disposable income. It's not going to be a huge thing. You're still making more money. Your income's still going up. But the amount that's withheld as a percentage by the government has gotten bigger. So that will act as a tiny little brake. Same thing is true down here. As you're going down towards the trough, many people's incomes have declined. At lower income rates, your tax rate will decline. We know that if your tax rate declines, then your disposable income will increase. So that gives just a little bit of gas. Right here at the bottom, you need a little bit of gas, and that's what you'll get. It's not a huge thing, it's not a lot, but it's a little bit. So right here, you get a little bit of gas. Right here, you get a little bit of brake, and that's all because of our progressive tax system. Now, let me go back over here and draw another one, draw another business cycle. All right, here's another business cycle, and we're going to do the second automatic stabilizer. You have to know not only what the stabilizers are, but how they apply that little bit of brake and that little bit of gas just when they're needed. Okay, so the second one is government transfer programs. There's a lot of government transfer programs, but the one that you should think of for the story for this one is like food stamps, food assistance, rent assistance for people who are low income. I'm trying to get my face. There we go. For people who are low income. I don't know why that happened, but we're going to keep going. Oh, my computer's freaking out. So, quick, I'll do this quick before my computer dies. Government transfer programs. When you're at the very top here, do more or less people need assistance? Less. So the C plus I plus G plus net export, G will go down just a little bit. Not a lot, but it will go down just a little bit because they're spending less for transfer programs. So that's a little bit of a break. Down here, where you're in the trough, a lot of people will be needing assistance. A lot of people will be needing help. That is an increase in G, but that's not an increase in G like fiscal policy. That's just a little bit of G that will increase, and it will give a little bit of a gas just when you need it. So these gas and brakes that occur at the peak and in the trough happen automatically. No government action required. Here's what you need to know. I took out a couple of these from the PowerPoints. You need to understand expansionary and contractionary fiscal policy. what we call G&T. You need to know about the spending multiplier and the tax multiplier, and you're going to have to be able to work those problems like the two problems that I worked in this PowerPoint presentation, and you're also going to be able to know with automatic stabilizers and know how they work at the peak and at the trough. All right, that's all for me. Professor George out.